Hello, it's Andrew Eborn here for another exciting episode of Andrew Eborn Live. And speaking of live, we're going to go straight to an airfield near you. I'm joined by Rebecca. How are you, Rebecca?
Hi, Andrew. I'm very well, thank you. Yes, I'm
And
in the
where
middle of
have
the
you
sea.
brought us?
I brought you to Cambridge Gliding Centre. So I'll just give us a little.
You're sounding wonderfully windy, but we're in the great outdoors. I love it. Finally, we're getting out of lockdown and we're going to explore the world. So where are we exactly?
This is Cambridge Gliding Centre, and we're near Camborne, not the Camborne in Cornwall, the Camborne in Cambridge.
The
And
Camborne, the
Cambridge
CC, the Camborne in
is
Cambridge. I
that
love it.
way.
And we're in a gliding centre, which does
Yes, that's
mean
right.
that this makes this a gliding special, because gliding is one of those sports which needs more publicity. I love the look of gliding. So you're going to tell us today all about gliding. You're going to talk about the championship. You're going to talk to us about the different people involved. We're looking at the hangers as we speak, which I think is sensational. And we're going to talk through lots of these things because you've got your glider there as well.
That's right, yes. So right in front of me is my glider. This is a Shark. It's a HPH 304ES. I'll just come out of the wind a minute because I won't be able to hear what I'm saying otherwise. Now, gliding is one of those little known things. It's been around for a very long time. And I just changed cameras. We've been around for a very long time. We've been around since the start of flying. And it's surprising how few
Really?
people
Has it
know
been
about it.
well, how does it start? Is it really? Because about gliding, and that's why you're not, a definition of gliding is where you don't have an engine. Is that basically it?
Correct, yes. Now, most of them now have got an engine, but that's to get us home when it's all gone horribly wrong.
That's all
And
right.
a very small number of us can take on.
Tell me then, Rebecca, did the very first glider, did it start by mistake because the engine just cut out and then they couldn't work out this is what happens?
Well, everybody thinks that the first flight was the Wright brothers. It wasn't. If you were to find a chap called George Cayley in history, you'd see that he had a glider. I'm not sure that he flew it actually, but yeah, gliding predates powered flight
But
by
this is what
quite a
we
few
love.
years.
So always here on the program, what we say is question everything. Because so often, you're right, people think you're right, it's the Wright brothers. That's what they turn around and say. So this
Yeah.
predates the Wright brothers. So by how many years?
Oh gosh, over a decade.
So
Yeah.
10 years beforehand, 10 years plus beforehand. And the name of the chap or chapess who did it?
George Cayley, but there's a lot of dispute about who was the very first.
Oh, we're going to track them down. No, this is what we do. We solve the riddle about Houdini and how he really died.
I'll
will
send you the
track
history.
down the first person who got up in the air and can claim the record, and I'll get their family members. This is my promise to you. I'll get their family members on here, and we will reunite them. We'll have a great gliding session where everybody will be reunited. Wouldn't that be brilliant?
That would be fabulous. Yeah. Okay. I'll send you the history and let's see if we can find them. That would be awesome.
No, you'll be amazed at the millions of people who watch this show. The Question Everything section of the Andrew Eborn Show is phenomenal. We will solve this mystery for you.
So there's an interesting thing happening. It was meant to happen next year, because of coronavirus. It's been pushed out to 2022. We are holding the Women's World Gliding Championship in England.
Wow!
So instead of
And so
WWDC,
the whole of the world is going to come to England. The whole of the world of gliding is going to come to England to take part in this championship. Now, if I know my figures right, it's a small percentage of gliders are women. It's only about 5%, isn't it?
Sadly, yes. There's about.
Is that right? It's 5% of people are gliders who are women.
There's about 5,000 glider pilots in the UK, and about 5% of us are women. Yeah, and that's the same the world over, unfortunately. Some countries it's a little more, some countries it's a little less. But there's really no reason why women can't compete equally with men.
There's no reason women can't do anything. And it's absolutely, no. They are absolutely, what I believe, it's irrelevant what your sex, religion, persuasion, whatever it is, everybody should try everything, shouldn't they?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So that's what we're going to encourage. So what I love about it, so let's talk through this journey. We're going to track down the family. That's the first thing. How did you get involved with gliding?
Oh my goodness. I grew up next to British Aerospace Woodford,
That
just
helps.
south of
That's a good
Manchester.
start. That's a good hint.
And that's where they built Vulcans, Nimrods, and before that, Lancaster bombers. And this was never an RAF base. Everybody says, oh, it's RAF. But no, it was British Aerospace. It was Avro. They were involved in the very start of flying. And they had a gliding club. But of course, I grew up hearing 4 jet engines from, from before I was born, frankly, because they're not
You
exactly
heard before
quiet.
you were born. That's another miracle. I love
Yeah,
the
they're not
idea of
exactly
hearing before
quiet.
you're born.
Have you ever heard of Vulcan?
You're probably right. I have actually. A friend of mine is in the aerospace industry. And so we used to go along to the fantastic air shows. At Farnborough Air Show, I took the family, and the noise. Talk about the adrenaline rush. As you know, I'm heavily involved with Formula One. We did a lot of the initial contracts, and the rush, the first time you hear the engine of a Formula One car is tremendous. But you hear the engine sound of some of those planes. It is phenomenal, isn't it?
Absolutely, it's very similar. When I lived near Duxford, we had the Renault F1 team going up and down the runway, and
Get all your ducks in a
actually,
row. That's what you've got to do.
they're a little bit noisier than some jet engines. Those things, yeah. It's amazing. If you've never heard it, it is astonishing. Anyway, I grew up next to Aerospace Woodford, and they had a gliding club, and I was lucky enough to be able to join, and that's where I started. And then O levels, yes, I'm that old, and A levels, and university, and family, and all of that got in the way, and I came back to it in 2016. Sorry, 2006.
So
So
when you
14
say you
years
get
ago.
involved, I mean, your first time, talk me through the process. So the first time you went up in a plane was when?
1984.
Oh, you remember it? George
Yeah,
Orwell ringing in your ears, telling you about 1984. That's the
yeah.
time I want to hop into a plane. There's a
I
lesson
was
there somewhere.
I
Well,
was
what was your
put
first
in the back.
experience up there?
I was put in the back of an aircraft called a K7, a Schleicher KA7, a 2-seat metal tubing and wooden wing aircraft. And I was so small and light, I had to sit in the back. And they put every cushion that they had in there so that I could see out. And we got to the top of the winch launch, and the pilot, who was a newly qualified basic instructor, a guy called Sandy Torrance, who unfortunately died a few years ago, spanned the aircraft. So the very, very first experience I had was a winch launch followed by a spin. Now, most people would have been a little put off by that, but not me.
So
That
winch
was
launch
lovely.
followed by a spin. So the
Followed
winch
by a
launch, I
spin.
presume. So talk me through that. I can guess what they are,
So,
but tell us specifically. What is a winch launch, first of all?
so a winch launch typically would be a winch is parked at one end of the runway, and it's with, say, an 8-litre engine and a drum that's a metre and a bit. And back then we used to use piano wire. Now
Oh,
we use
really?
something a bit more sophisticated.
Oh, did it make a lovely noise
Yes,
as you took off?
it did.
That'd be rather
Yes,
nice.
the whistling sound it made in the wind was interesting. Yeah, and of course if you hit it, it would make a noise when it was taut. But now we use Dyneema, which is any yachting people amongst you will know what Dyneema
Oh,
is.
we have a lot of yachting people. They're all watching this program. All the yachting people, they don't go to their boats anymore. They tune into the Andrew Eborn show to talk about gliding.
So we use Dyneema, and it's gone from 3 people being required to lift up the
And
drum
she's a lovely
to
lady,
load it.
Dyneema, isn't she?
She is,
She
yeah.
gets about a bit.
I can hold the entire run on one arm. It's just the difference is amazing. Anyway, at the other end of the runway, your aircraft is attached to this to this winch, and a signal is given when you're ready, because if you're not ready, it would be quite a shock. And you're accelerated to
What's the
60 knots.
signal? So tell us what the signal is, so we can learn. What I love is, assume that we know nothing about this. What is the
I would,
signal that you give to
if
show
I
that you're
was
ready?
going to give a winch launch, I would be standing outside. I would look around. I would look up, and I would say, "All clear above and behind." And then into the radio, I would say, "Take up slack." And we
Take
say
up
it.
slack.
We
And
say
this is,
very
you would
deliberately,
be much
"Take
better
up
than the
slack."
government. Stay alert. We don't like take up slack. Be much better.
Well, we are a lot of alerts here, of course. So you're saying that because with the winch being quite noisy, they may not
These
actually be able to
noisy
hear it
winches, there's
properly.
nothing worse than a noisy winch.
And then once the cable's gone tight and the aircraft started to move, we would we would say all out, all out, all
All
out.
out, all out. And what is out? When you're saying all out, what is
Well,
out?
they're meaning go all out to
Okay,
launch
so
the
like
thing.
all out
So
means you're off.
that's right. And in the winch, they've got this little tiny throttle, and they just move it to there. And
Well, like I said,
there's
it's tiny. So where's this throttle? Where did you find that?
well, it's on the control panel in front of you. They're all the same. They're
They're
made
tiny.
by a
It's
company
just
called
a little
Giant.
movement. Because I've flown helicopters. You never believe it, but I've flown helicopters. And the slightest movement, and I flew over Las Vegas and the Grand Canyon, absolutely superb. Terrified the passengers, but it was great. But the slightest movement makes a massive difference, doesn't it?
Well, this is in the winch, and it's quite a hefty engine. And how much of the power are you using? Probably half of the power, actually, for most launches. Anyway, driving winches is quite an involved skill, and generally it takes people probably 10 hours to get any good at it, and then probably years to become somebody that you would want to be launching you and seek out. But you can learn it very quickly. The basics I could teach you in an afternoon.
Oh, well, no, we're going to do that. So what we're going to do in this series, I love this. We've done boats. We're going to go underground. We're going to do submarines in another episode. You're now taking us to new heights, literally, and you're going to teach people how to glide. So I love that. So the winch, we've got the hang of it, okay, and we've got the piano wire, we've got the noises, and we've got how you release it. So all that sort of stuff. What happens next?
So once I've said all out, the glider will be accelerated to 60 knots. That's about
60
70-ish,
knots.
75
And they
miles
used to,
an
but
hour.
that's a sea term, isn't it? Because knots was, and it used to do, I remember there was literally a piece of rope, and every so often they would have a knot in the piece of rope, and depending on how many bits of the knot were visible above the water, that told you how fast you're going. Is that right?
That's right. Well, we use a funny mix here in the UK. We use feet for height, kilometers for distance, and knots for speed. Don't ask why.
That's confused everybody. And I have a company with my good friend R.J. Gibb, the fantastic producer, singer-songwriter, magician, mentalist, but also son of the late, great Robin Gibb from the Bee Gees. And our company is called Not the Truth, with K-N-O-T, because we do all sorts of exciting things with the truth. So it's good. So knots are appropriate for us.
Very good. Once you've reached your 60 knots, that comes up in about 2.5 seconds, maybe 3, depending on the wind. And don't forget, we're looking for air speed, not ground speed. You would take off, and the aircraft will lift. And when you've confirmed that the speed is where you want it to be, you would start to rotate into the climb. And
That must be
probably
so
by about
scary. I mean, the first time that happens and you're off and you're above the ground, aren't you petrified?
what happens the first few times you do it. I'm a basic instructor. I've given hundreds of people their first flights. The very first time you do a winch launch, it happens so quickly, and there's so much overwhelm with the noises, the sensations, that people don't really see it happen, which sounds very odd, but they don't. Suddenly, they're at 500 feet, and they don't
No!
realize how
Suddenly
that
at
happened.
500 feet?
Yeah,
Good. I'll tell you what we should do, Rebecca. Will you, on a later program, will you take me up?
of course.
That would be brilliant, because we'll take all our viewers. You can all come with me, depending on reception. That would be brilliant. I love that.
So we've got a lot of restrictions on us at the moment because of coronavirus. Most gliding clubs are closed to visitors right now, unfortunately. So you may be tempted to
But
go and
when we
visit.
can, no, I get that. And
But
we've cancelled concerts, we've got sporting events, they're gradually opening up. But at an appropriate moment, we would love to come up and you can take us up, yeah?
that would be fantastic. And we will take you around, show you the aircraft. I can show you an aircraft today if we
Oh, I
have the
want to see an
time.
aircraft today. But we'll be doing
Very
that
good.
after the break, so we're going to have a look at that, okay?
Okay. We will get you in a glider. We will
Oh,
get
we're going
you
to
in
go
the
in a
wind.
glider. Oh, come on!
And I will start to teach you to fly.
Oh,
It
that's what I
sounds like you
want.
already
Are we
can.
going to take off today?
Well, not today, no, sadly.
We
There's
can pretend,
nothing
because
happening.
nobody, if you make that whooshing noise and just look around the crowd, they won't know. It will look great in the edit.
I'll drive fast down the runway. How about that?
I love it. Okay, that sounds brilliant.
Awesome. Okay, what else can we get you up in? We might be able to get you in a motor glider, and we might possibly be able to get you in one of the tug aircraft. So we've got 2 of those. And if the weather's appropriate, we can get you in our vintage glider, our 70-year-old T21B called Bluebell.
Oh, I'd love
So
to go in Bluebell. I've loved a bit of Bluebell.
anybody who's been in the ATC will have flown a T21. They call them Zedbergs in the RAF for some reason. They like to give things funny names. We know them as T21s. So it's wooden, it's an open cockpit, and it's side-by-side seating.
Well, this sounds absolutely divine. So a little tantalizing tidbit as a teaser for the people watching this series. I'm going to make this into a series because I love this. I want to put gliding on the map, although maps tend to be on the ground. So I want them to be whatever you have up in the air. I want one of those. So we're going to put gliding
That
on
would
the map.
be a chart.
So, it would be a fantastic start. So in this initial series, today, this is going to be the introduction here. Then going to chop this into different bits and pieces. How many different segments are there? And tantalizingly, Rebecca, tell us about each episode. So this is episode 1. This is the introduction to gliding, the history, and how gliding predated the Wright brothers by 10 years. And we're tracking down the family. That's our promise to you. That's what Rebecca promised. She's going to bring them on the show, and we're going to talk to them. 10 years, 10 years before the Wright brothers.
I think you promised that.
What we're going to do today, tell us about the other segments in the show. What's going to happen after that, Rebecca?
Oh, goodness. Okay. I'd love to get you here and flying. If we can, when we can, that will happen. We've also got the British Women's Squad. I'm going to get out the car now. It's less windy, which is great. We've got the British Women's Squad, and we have coaching sessions. And the next coaching session we've got coming up face to face is on the 18th of July.
The 8th of July, the day after my birthday. 7th of July every year. And the next face-to-face coaching session is the 8th. Can I come along?
Sadly, it's the 18th.
Oh, well, that's no good. So it's 11 days after my birthday. Well, that's okay.
11 days after your birthday. Now, we're not entirely sure where we're going to be able to hold that yet because of coronavirus. So it's either going to be here at the Cambridge Gliding Centre, or it's going to be at the Gliding Centre at Husbands Bosworth. We're not sure which yet.
Okay, but or it could be remote. We could face to face. We could be on one of these wonderful digital platforms and look at you directly. Okay, that's a possibility.
Awesome. All right, and we've got later in the year, we've got an early coaching session for the next generation of competition pilots. That's going to be in September, and that's going to be here at Cambridge as well.
Oh, do you reckon I could be a competition pilot? What do you need to be a competition pilot?
Well, an aircraft. Well,
can I borrow one?
Maybe.
Okay, good. I'll borrow one. Okay, what else? What else do you need?
You need to have learned how to fly.
Okay, you're going to see how long will that take me?
That depends upon the individual. And
I'm a quick learner. I love learning new stuff.
What our rule of thumb is your age plus about 30 launches.
I was going to say my age plus about 30 years. I think I'll be in the ground by then. So my age plus 30 launches. Okay, we can manage that.
And that would get you to a stage where you're a solo pilot. And then after being a solo pilot, you need to build some hours.
Okay.
And somewhere around 50 hours, you would do the bronze exam, which is a written paper and a flying test.
Okay.
And after that, you would go and get a cross-country endorsement, which proves that you can navigate and that you can land safely in a field, because don't forget, we've not got an engine. So we want to end up in a field.
And are you allowed, just on that, are you allowed to land anywhere?
No, there are some places where it would be a really bad idea to go. So anywhere where there's Class A airspace, for example, transponder mandatory zones, so anywhere near any major airport, we're not allowed to go. It's probably best, because
I guess if you land in the middle of nowhere, somebody's got to come and get you, don't they?
The last field landing I did was by a farm, and I walked up to the farm, and there was nobody there. And when I found somebody, within 10 minutes, everybody had turned up. There was gin and tonics all round.
Oh, come on, I'm there. I love this.
We went and took photographs of people sitting in the glider with puppies in their laps.
Puppies? Puppies and gin and tonic. This is what they call clickbait. This is what I love. You can get puppies teas and gin and tonic on this gliding course. I'm there. I'm your man. I love this. It's brilliant.
Sadly, you'd spill the gin and tonic, and you're not allowed to drink when you're flying. So.
No, that's all right. I'll hold the puppies. I'll do that for the promo. It's got to be good. I love this already. This is brilliant. So I do my hours, my age plus the zillions of years, the 30 sessions. Then I do
then you do your bronze. Then you do your then you do your cross country endorsement. Then you need to do a silver badge, and when you've got the silver badge, to do that you've got to do a 5-hour flight.
5 hour. That sounds like a long flight. I'm sort of almost in New York. A 7-hour flight to New York, so a bit less than New York, and I drop down there. Okay, I can do that.
Well, not if you're flying around at 50 or 60 knots.
You're probably
not
right.
going to make
I wouldn't get very far. I wouldn't get very far with that. Bognor Regis, I reckon.
Well, yes, you'd have to be careful of Southend Airport, but yes, I guess. I know Bognor's in the south, isn't it? Yeah. So 5-hour flight, you need to do a height gain of, I forget what it is, about 3,000 feet or something like that.
3,000 feet, okay.
And then a cross-country flight of a minimum distance of 50 kilometres on a leg. So
50 kilometres on a leg. I mean, like in one session.
One section of the flight has to be 50 kilometres long.
But that doesn't sound very far, 50 kilometres.
No, but the very first time you turn your back on an airfield...
I'm not turning my back on anything. I want to keep my eyes up front.
You've got this sort of virtual elastic that pulls you back to the airfield constantly, because
really?
in the early days, there's an instructor saying, don't go too far away.
I see.
Don't go out
So
of gliding
how far would
range.
50 kilometres be? I mean, that's sort of halfway down the A3 for me.
From here, that would be about Husbands Bosworth, which is sort of Northamptonshire, Leicestershire.
No, I would be about Guildford from me, from sort of central London, maybe even Petersfield as far as that. That's got beautiful down there. That's my route down to see my mother on the south coast in Bracklesham Bay. So I could do that 50 kilometres.
Okay. Once you've done that, you get your badge, and that would entitle you.
I get a badge? Dude, I want to see the badge. You mean I get to wear something? Oh, that'd be cool. I thought you get wings. Don't you get wings? I thought that's it. Don't I wear? That's what I wanted on my shoulder. You know,
you could have those if you want, but people look at you funny if you have those.
People look at me funny anyway, Rebecca. I'm not worried about people looking at me funny. I love the idea. We get a badge and things like that. That's cool.
Well, the commercial pilots would look at you funny anyway, because they do
anyway. Do you want to go left, sir? Yes, I want to drive the thing. It's got to be good. No, but I've flown a helicopter, so I know. So, and my father, because we grew up near Goodwood, so obviously they have the airfield there. They have the race course there. So I'm used to being very fast on the ground and very fast in the air. And we used to have horses as well. So I've done horsepower. So we've done all of that sort of stuff. I love speed.
That's good to hear. If you can ride horses, then you'll have the right feel for flying a glider.
Oh, is that bad, is it?
No.
I hope it doesn't throw you out, because that would be awful. I don't like falling off a horse. It's not too far, but out of a glider is not so good.
You need to be very gentle, is what I mean.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Oh, let's see. Safety. It's safer than riding a horse.
Oh, is it?
Statistically. Oh, much safer, yes. Yes.
Good heavens. Right. What are the big things to look out for then? I mean, if you talk us through the first time you sit in a glider, talk us through it.
Well, the best thing to do is I'll pull one out and we'll sit in it.
Even better. Well, let's do that. So we're going to do that. I suggest you probably take a break, because by the time you hopped out of your car and over to the glider, I imagine that will take us a little while.
I don't know. Let's see.
Okay, we're going to walk you over.
I'm going to change camera. If it'll let me.
Multiple cameras.
Ah, there we go.
Oh, there you go. Okay, right. We're coming over to the glider. Let's have a look at this. So you can give us a little tantalizing tip before we take a break. This is it. Talk us through. What do we see here?
So I'm undoing the clips on the side. This is a Cobra trailer. I might not be able to open this one-handed. It usually takes.
You won't be able to open it one-handed, but if you tell us, and then we'll take a break and we'll bring you back. Oh, you can open it one-handed. Look at you.
Hurrah! So this is what's inside those glider trailers you see going up and down the motorways.
It's very skinny.
So the lid contains, in this case, the wing outer sections and the tail. So there they are up in the roof. Here's the tail of the glider. It's held down. And here are the wing sections. So this is the outer part of the wing. If we walk up, there's the air brakes. That's where the big batteries go. This is an electric powered glider. And then if we come up to the top, here we've got the wing roots. So this is how they're attached together. This bit here is actually where one bit of the wing joins another. And the load lifting the aircraft actually goes through these pins here. So we've got what's 600 kilos of aircraft. Some of that is lifting components. That's the wing and the tail. Some of it isn't. But all of the load of the non-lifting components goes through that. Let's see, what else can we see? Not an awful lot at this point. So these are the control surfaces. So this is both the combined aileron and flap. So that's the full length of the wing. And of course it extends out onto the outer part of the wing as well.
And what does the R2B stand for? Is that like a registration plate?
This is the competition number, Romeo 2 Bravo. My initials are RRB.
I know they are. I thought that's why I thought it was rather like a personalised number plate.
Well, I couldn't have RRB. Somebody else already had that. So being a bit of a techie nerd, I thought I'll have R²B. That works for me.
So it is, and this particular, this is a shark, is it?
This is a shark, yes. Hence, on the side of the trailer it says, "Warning, shark," and it's a HPH sailplanes 304 ES.
So all very plain sailing. So fantastic. So today then, Rebecca, what are you going to take us through?
What I'm going to try to do is to bring the aircraft out.
Fantastic. Well, I will let you use 2 hands for that. So when you join us in the next episode, you'll be joining Rebecca. She's going to take out her shark. She's going to assemble it for us. And then you can take us through everything that we need to learn about gliding. You're welcome for the very first time. We are teaching you, the people at home, the great public, not just in Britain, but around the world, your introduction to gliding. Join us next time for another thrilling episode. But for now, Rebecca, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Andrew.
See you next time. Bye-bye.